Welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. Terrific Friday night. It is the eve of LSU's final game of the 2025 Death Star debacle campaign that it turned out to become. And once again, LSU find themselves in familiar territory. In Houston, at Energy Stadium, in the Texas Bowl, this time against Houston themselves. Very bizarre situation this has turned into. Very bizarre situation. So now you've got LSU, including, they're going to be playing with some guys who have already left the team, who've already entered the portal. Very unique situation going on in college football. But, these kids will be professionals and do their job. And actually, there's a lot of money these kids can make, a lot of opportunities they can create for themselves by having a really good performance here and then getting picked up in the portal. Someone saying, hey, that dude was good enough to start games for LSU, and then he actually showed what he can do. Let's give him a chance. Let's roll the dice. Maybe a smaller school. We've seen that situation before. And so you're going to, I think, have some guys who are going to be more incentivized to kick some ass tomorrow night at Energy Stadium for LSU more than you'd realize. And I think that's going to be a very good thing for LSU to finish out this season, which has been an absolute hellish disappointment. I mean, we had a 2025 review show where we, late at night kind of had to bluntly, very intensely say this is how LSU screwed themselves in 2025, one game after another. And we didn't get into extremely minute details, game by game by game, every single screw up, every single moment, but I was shocked. I was very shocked at my recall that I was able to remember almost every single blown opportunity in every one of these. Oh yeah, this game where we couldn't score from the 3-yard line multiple times. Oh yeah, it was incredible. I had the schedule laid out in front of me and I was like, oh my God, there's so many moments here where LSU just screwed up that stick to your mind because of the massive missed opportunities this team continued to waste on offense. I mean, this defense, their pass rushing has been exposed. Their ability to finish off their pass rushing prowess into the backfield, making plays. So many pressures, so many moments of havoc and chaos created. But only 27 sacks as an entire defense, which is actually 4 less than the 2023 infamous Matt House defense, which is known as the worst of all time in LSU history. Worse than that. And LSU's defensive line only had 14.5. That is a statistic we've been continuously repeating because I think it's something that until LSU figures that out, they're not going to be a winning enterprise. And I think Lane Kiffin is you're going to see very quickly if he's paying attention to those needs along the trenches on both sides of the ball. And I think you're obviously going to see that. But for this game, the Texas Bowl tomorrow, you're going to see an interesting team because here's the thing. There's a lot of guys who are out. We're going to go through the list right now. And because of that, you're going to have some big time opportunities for some key guys tomorrow. Okay, you're out both eldest Weeks brothers. So no West Weeks, no Witt Weeks. We know that, Witt's injured. of course. And then West, he has already said, I've played my final game as a Tiger. And then Harold Perkins, it looks like the dude might be gone for good. Which is just it's hard to imagine that's going to happen, that Harold Perkins is going to leave with this type of legacy at LSU, an unfinished legacy, a lot of what could have been with him. I think that's just an absolute. It's a criminal enterprise that you never could find out just how good Harold Perkins could be. And this is even while Harold Perkins is leading the team in sacks and pass breakups, or sorry, not pass breakups, but sacks, a few interceptions here and there, forced fumbles, tackles for loss, really racking up tackles and stuff. I mean, he's had some lost seasons in the wilderness, Harold Perkins, as well. So he can kind of say he clocked the miles at LSU, but you can also say that some of it was a bunch of empty moments. And so without him, where LSU, where are they going forward as a defense? Could you have built this Blake Baker defense around Harold Perkins? Because it seemed like, as much as they said they were doing that, outside of a few games, you didn't really feel like they were, like that they did. And if going back and watching a lot of the film of these games, it was like, if this defense is built around Harold Perkins, but this is what we're seeing, is there's a lot of times where he's not really the main focal point. He's going off and covering some random dude, and they're kind of like using him as a decoy. Get away from. He's fake blitzing, so then another guy can go in there and get a pressure. All this stuff used as a middle linebacker, in 2023, in first few games of 2024 until he tears his ACL. Harold Perkins, just kind of an anonymous figure for some of these seasons, and then could be one of the greatest Tiger defenders if you had figured it out, even just for one season. I mean, how electric Perkins was this year when he was at his best. He finished the season playing his best football. He started the season, I think, playing his best football against Clemson. He was incredible against Clemson. Both him and Whit Weeks, you saw the power those two can have together, and what they can do as a pressure package, those two, Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks. And what's sad is you didn't really see that outside of a few games. You didn't see it enough. Harold was injured one season. Now Whit's injured this season. It's just kind of like, geez, it's something that really sucks. And it looks like we're going to get Whit Weeks back next season, but for this game against Houston in the Texas Bowl, I almost said against Texas in the Texas Bowl. Against Houston in the Texas Bowl, you're gonna have no Whit Weeks, no Harold Perkins, no West Weeks. We're gonna talk about that, what that's gonna mean for the linebacker position in just a moment. But you don't have Mansour Delane as well. Of course, no Garrett Nussmeier. We've known that for a while here. I've put AJ Halsey on the out list right now because I don't think he wants to play against former teammates in his hometown. I don't think he wants to be caught in this situation. I think he's like, I don't know. I could see him play though, because it's kind of like a once in a lifetime moment where you're playing in your hometown stadium. Like, I don't know why he wouldn't want to play in this game other than, hey, let's avoid injury. All right. But I thought we had already, maybe not report, but we had posted what Halsey had said on his Instagram, where he said, I'm not going to be playing in this game, basically. I can't remember. What did he say? He basically said that was it. I'm done. Like, he said it very clearly, like, I'm done. That was the last game I'm playing for LSU. And I remember posting the screenshot of that Instagram post from him. It was one of those story things that, deletes. And so it was like, okay, that's interesting. Halsey's going to be out then. And here comes Ari. What's up, Ari? Ari. So Halsey, could he play in the game? Theoretically, we could see. But if he doesn't, I understand why. He's made himself a lot more money. He's moved himself up big time on the draft board. And now you're playing this impassioned, crazy, brutal game against your former teammates in your hometown stadium. That'd be rough. You also have no Jack Pyburn. I found that kind of strange. No Jack Pyburn. Pyburn did not have the season that he could have. Only a few sacks that he was involved in, a few TFLs. He made some big plays that don't end up on the stat sheet that I definitely remember. But for all that we were expecting and how much he was not only featured on like all of LSU's like preseason, these are one of the pillar guys of our team type of every moment he was kind of put forth as like he's one of these guys to look to on the team, not a captain but a near captain, like the closest thing to a captain. And you saw some great moments, but ending the season with just 2 sacks after all the pressures Pyburn racked up. And I think every sack he had was a half of a sack as well. It was always him involved with someone else or him getting the majority of the play and someone kind of taking a bite out of half of the sack on the way down. So I kind of felt for him because the number would have looked higher if that hadn't happened. But Pyburn really, I feel bad that he didn't have the fullest extent at LSU, good enough, a multi-season attempt at greatness at LSU, because sadly he was at Florida, where everything from the facilities to the coaching staff, everything is in the shits. And they don't care enough about their players as much as LSU does and their staff does. And Pyburn didn't get that full opportunity at the college level that he should have. But here's the thing. I think Pyburn, he's going to get that chance at the NFL level. And we'll see what he does with it. So you've seen guys that you thought, oh, they're not going to be good in the NFL. They're not going to be good NFL players because maybe they didn't, pop or completely dominate in college. But it's like, I think that's bullshit because we've seen that script get flipped so many times. I mean, just talking about Tom Brady, for one, he was a complete nothing at Michigan who completely turned into the superstar, the greatest champion the NFL's ever seen or known. So, guys on the defensive line like Jack Pyburn have an even better chance than quarterbacks do. So, this is a chance that I think Pyburn will be able to have an interesting time with going into the NFL, but we're not going to get him tomorrow. And sucks that Gabe Relaford won't be back either, because this would be a big game for him to start and dominate. He was already a starter the first few games of the season until he broke his arm. So, but who knows what type of season Relaford would have had. He only had one tackle for loss, 0 sacks, and the tackle for loss he had, that he got, that happened on the play where he broke his arm. It was like, oh my God, like right when we see what he can do, breaks his arm. So you're not going to see Pyburn. You're not going to see Aaron Anderson as well. Aaron Anderson, wow, what a, this kid, Aaron Anderson, for me, he's one of the better LSU receivers in this last year or two. And the stats don't really back up how clutch he was, how just unbelievable Aaron Anderson really was for LSU. And also the stats don't really point out like how much we leaned on him either. Like the amount of touchdowns he's had over the last 2 seasons. I think he had like 4 or 5 in 2024, and that was a low number for how like clutch and productive he was in 2024. Was in the top 5 in receivers in the SEC for catches and receptions and yards. And then this season, you think Aaron Anderson going to take that next step? Boom. Well, not when you're throwing him in, hospital throws where you're throwing him right into these savage hits. And it happened time after time after time where Garrett Nussmeier threw Aaron Anderson right into some horrendous hits. He was playing with like 3 different injuries, including his forearm and a cast at one point, Aaron Anderson. It was crazy. I have a ton of mad love for Aaron Anderson. I think he was one of the really screwed over players of this era. I mean, you can see him right on the front of that collage that I had my man 007, my man. He made those edits every year, every season. He's made those edits for us, and it sucks that we won't see Aaron Anderson at LSU again. It's and left another, I believe, another season on the table as well. I don't understand the AJ Halsey declares for the NFL draft stuff like it's news. It's like, well, where else was he gonna go? He's a senior. What was he gonna do? Is he gonna go to the CFL? Okay, you got Aaron Anderson and then Josh Thompson on the offensive line. We're not gonna have him as well. He was a key transfer who basically started every moment for LSU. Then Javian Toviano, who we just found that out from Matt Moscona and LouisianaSports.net, Matt Moscona's website, where he reported that Javian Toviano informed the team he wouldn't be going with them to Houston, something like that. I've tried to, figure that one out and see where that's going, and I haven't really gotten any solid information on what Toviano's future entails, but it's quite obvious he's going to enter the portal. Toviano's wasted 4 seasons at LSU. 4 seasons. And we've seen him start as a freshman at Alabama, thrown out there at corner, and actually do very well. We saw him thrown out there starting as a freshman at corner, out of position at Florida, and doing very well. Like, we've seen him thrown into these moments and actually show up and do well. And then because of whatever reason, he's not played. And then, some of our fans kind of shit on these guys like, oh, they're not good, blah, blah, blah. You kind of forget they're former 5 stars and we're actually much in demand players from every big school, every big program pursuing these guys. And LSU were lucky enough to get them, but then you don't maximize them. Guys like a former 5-star like Sage Ryan. He was a former 5-star who his potential, what he could do as a special teams guy, maybe even on offense. How do you use this guy correctly? Harold Perkins, how do you use this guy correctly? Javian Toviano, another 5-star, how do you use this guy correctly? You got to make sure they're in a defined role and you can maximize them to the fullest of their potential, because with Toviano, you never knew what you wanted to do with him. Is he a safety? Is he a nickel? Is he a corner? He bounced around a ton and just fell out of favor once he got into that legal trouble. He was already kind of second, third on the list now that you'd gotten these guys in the portal, but he was still in there with a fighting chance and was going to be in the rotation. And then boom, he's just completely out. No chances, no looks at all. And I feel bad for Toviano because I think there's a great player there. I think given the opportunity, Toviano will take it and will be a top player at some other school. And it sucks it won't be at LSU, but that's kind of how it works sometimes. I know I'm missing some names for the guys that are going to be out versus Houston. So if I'm missing any names, just let me know. Let me know who I'm missing. But that was the list that we had gotten. There's going to be more that it comes out ahead of the game, like who's not going to be able to be in the foxhole with the Tigers in this game, where you're up against a top 25 ranked Houston team that, this team can actually beat you. You cannot embarrass LSU by going into a place where, our fan base is we have so much entrenched fan base there in Houston. You cannot go there, a place you dominate in, and lose to that school, the local. You cannot lose to the University of Houston in Energy Stadium at the Texas Bowl with this mixture of folks in the crowd around the game. You cannot lose with this Houston contingent laughing their asses off. Their friends who are LSU alums who live in Houston now just having to sit there silently going, oh my God, another embarrassment. It can't happen. But here's the thing. It absolutely can happen because LSU you saw the list. LSU are without a lot of top talent going into this game. LSU are going to be going into this game without a lot of their guys. But here's the thing. You have a big-time chance because you got Frank Wilson. He's always going to be inspiring the players. He's got Danielle Hunter showing up. He's got Damone Clark showing up. I don't know if Stingley showed up. That would be cool if Stingley would be there to show up. Haven't seen him, but that would be awesome if Stingley did. But LSU and their players getting some much needed fire from some Tiger alums in the Houston area coming up from supporting the team. But here's the thing: you really want to see a competitive game from these guys. You really want to see who and what these guys are made of going forward. Who's worth retaining on this team? How many of these guys are you really going to have to replace? How many of these guys are you going to be desperate enough to damn, we got to make sure we retain this guy. I hope this guy doesn't enter the portal. There's going to be guys like that who jump out to you tomorrow if you're actually paying attention, who will surprise you and who will make you go, God damn, we have to keep that guy. We have to keep that guy. So for me, Tigers to watch, it starts with the offensive line, and that's, focusing on Carius Kern, because Carius Kern has entered the portal, but he's also going to be playing tomorrow for LSU, and I guarantee probably starting, probably playing a big role. If they're making sense, they would have him start on that offensive line, have him play a big role. If they're not, then okay. But Kern's one of your better offensive linemen. Cohen Eccles, I'm not sure if Cohen Eccles was also going to play in the game as well, but Cohen Eccles, another offensive lineman from LSU who's entered the portal. I was worried that there was going to be an offensive line transfer exodus, and we're starting to see it. Now you really got to hope you can keep a guy like left tackle Tyree Adams. That's a guy I want to see LSU hell or high water. You got to keep him, even if it's for depth. Even if you go out and get a top left tackle, you've got to get a guy who's as solid and reliable as he's been. What's great too is you're going to have Braylon Moore back available from injury tomorrow in this game, covering for this terrible, worst ever LSU offense. And you desperately need Braylon Moore. You desperately need him. Okay? You desperately needed Braylon Moore at center. You're going to get him. And what's great about Braylon Moore is he hasn't entered the portal. He hasn't opted out. He hasn't done these typical moves that say, I'm leaving. So that means that LSU should make sure to spot Braylon Moore and his value and say, okay, we're going to give this dude this amount of money, because it is going to take a lot of time and a lot of hell and pain to go find another center who can come to being as experienced or as full of the leadership and aggression that Braylon Moore has from that center position in the portal. It's not like they just grow on trees. You have to have a great center. You have one in Braylon Moore. He has another year of eligibility. Pay the man, keep the man at all costs. Let's hope that these injuries don't become a thing, but you definitely want to keep Braylon Moore for next season. And it's great that he's going to be fit enough to return. He was injured against Western Kentucky, and he's back once against 2 injuries this season. But before that, he had started something like almost 50 straight games. So as reliable as they come, Braylon Moore, as reliable as they come. But he's someone I really want to, keep an eye on and watch, because will Kiffin want him to be his starting center? Because that's all that really matters at this point is are you going to be a part of the plan going forward? Deshaun Spears. Okay, if AJ Halsey isn't there, who's gonna be there alongside TaMarcus Cooley? You're gonna have to have Deshaun Spears there alongside TaMarcus Cooley. And so I want to see Spears, and that's AJ Halsey, but I don't think we have a photo of Spears right here. Damn. We'll pretend that I am Deshaun Spears. I want to see Deshaun Spears starting at safety, because I really, he's someone you have to retain. You can't let that dude go in the portal. Your second highest graded defender. I know he played limited snaps, 2 picks in 1 game, including 1 taken in the house. Every time he plays, he's fantastic. The only time I've seen him really make some embarrassing errors was a game I was actually at. Deshaun Spears is thrown into the very end, the last few plays of LSU versus USC, his freshman season. I'm at the game. He's thrown into the safety position, the free safety spot, at the very end of that game due to an injury. He goes back there. They run right at him, and he whiffs and makes a missed tackle. The guy scores. And he played 2 snaps in that game. Just thrown cruelly into that position. Since then, Deshaun Spears has done nothing but succeed at LSU. He's been nothing but awesome at LSU. And so you've got to keep these guys who've proven themselves, who've been fantastic players, because even if you upgrade in the portal, okay, you need depth. You need proven depth. If you want to win now, realistically, you need to retain the best of this team that can be, that can possibly be had. A guy like Whit Weeks, you better keep him, especially given the situation, the circumstances. I'm pretty sure that's going to transpire. Um, but Deshaun Spears as well, man. You've got to keep this kid. He's been fantastic for you. Fantastic for you. So he's a tiger for me to watch. Also, without Whit Weeks, without West Weeks, you're going to really, and also without Perkins at the star position, you really are going to be probably playing a 3 linebacker setup, potentially. And even if you're just going with a 2 linebacker setup, you're going to get a very good look, sustained look at Devon Keys, which you've gotten before for 2 seasons now. He's started a lot of games for LSU now. And sure, he was thrown into the fire twice due to injury. He did not start this season, but he was always reliable off the bench. Had a pick 6 in last year's bowl game against Baylor. 3rd in tackles this last season. Even if they caught the ball on him, which he's pretty good in coverage, but even when they caught the ball on him, which there's a few games where he was picked on more in coverage. He did allow more yards in coverage and whiffed on a few plays, but not really as close to some people were saying. Even then, when the ball would be caught on Keys, he's smacking them to the ground and taking them to the ground instantaneously. He's not letting them get a single yard after that. So I got to say, Davon Keys is a kid that I really have enjoyed watching at LSU, and I hope we hold on to him. I think it would be stupid to let him go. He's already started games alongside Whit Weeks, Davon Keys. He's already started games alongside Whit Weeks in 2024 at the back end of the season. So they've already had a natural chemistry. They've already had success and experience together, those two. I think you go with those two as your starting linebacker tandem for 2026. But this is a great game to get a good look at Zach Weeks, the youngest, the 3rd Weeks brother. And then also, he's right there in the middle. You got West on the left, Whit on the right, and in all 3 photos. In both those photos. He's right next to Dad in the top photo. Zach Weeks, my man. What a badass. What a badass this kid is. Took over the 4th quarter versus Florida off the bench, thrown into the fire. Both of his brothers unavailable. Whit ejected, West injured. He's thrown in and gets a few quarterback hits, a few pressures, and really lights up the end of that game on 3rd down, just taking DJ Lagway out. I believe one of his pressures also forced a pick. So Zach Weeks was phenomenal. And, from watching him for the last few years, I got to say, I think Zach actually has the potential to be better than either Whit or West. I really do believe that. I think also you're not going to know just how good Whit, West, or Zach Weeks are going to be as football players until they're able to play a few years in the NFL and you kind of see what's what at that point. I really think that people either underestimate these kids or don't pay attention to these kids, or maybe think of them more as a novelty, but they're actually some damn good football players. And so I really want to see Zach Weeks in this element unleashed and hopefully starting and playing the entire game tomorrow, because you're going to have Davon Keys obviously starting at linebacker, but then it's up for grabs between Zach Weeks or Tylen Singleton. Tylen Singleton, we don't have a photo of him either, but Singleton is a player who's been with LSU for a few years now, and no one thought LSU could get him when we got him initially recruited him and got his commitment out of almost nowhere. And it was because of teammates and all these people joining. But Tylen Singleton, man, when he came out of nowhere, and he's now spent 2 seasons at LSU. 2 seasons at LSU. And he's barely touched the football field. You know, one of the superstars at that Manny High juggernaut dynasty, Coach Jess Curtis. I absolutely love Jess Curtis. What a badass that dude is. Been talking to him for quite a while. We'll see where Tackett goes in the portal. He's entered the portal as well, Tackett Curtis. But Tylen Singleton was damn good with that Manny High team. Was incredible. And you've seen Tylen Singleton have a few moments. He's had some okay moments here and there. I actually liked his interview that he did with Carter the Power. It was like a 4-minute thing or whatever, but it was hilarious. He did some conversation with Carter. Sadly, that was probably the best highlight I've seen of him all season because we just simply haven't seen him. Let me see. Let me look and see what his stats could be. Man, they wasted a year of that kid's eligibility. Tylen Singleton, he played 12 games last year, only 6 tackles, so a ton of special teams, a ton of that type of stuff. But man, that's. I don't know if he redshirted his freshman year. Hopefully he did, but damn, that's 2 years kind of down the drain for this young guy, Tylen Singleton. This is a big game for him tomorrow. This is a big game for Davon Keys too. You know, like this is a game where you can assert your authority and show Lane Kiffin, I'm your starting linebacker for next season. You know, show that to Blake Baker, show that to Chris Kiffin. I'm going to be your starting linebacker for next season. I'm your guy. Look no further. That's a big moment for Davon Keys. You know, he's got all the pedigree and he's been playing for those 2 seasons now, mostly off the bench. Oh shoot, we need to. You know, this guy got injured. West Weeks. One of the Weeks brothers are injured. You got to be thrown into the game. Harold Perkins is injured, and we got to throw you in. You know, whatever is going on, Davon Keys has come in and has performed well. He's done everything you could ask him to do. I mean, I know some expect him to be like Derek Stingley at a linebacker position, but I'm sorry, how many linebackers are unstoppable in coverage? But he's pretty damn good in coverage still. I know he's allowed a few passes his way this season, and he got picked on in one of the games, but who didn't get picked on in that game against A&M? Who didn't get picked on against Vanderbilt? You know, like our whole defense got abused in those games. So it's something where it's like, hey, are they still a net positive for your team? Even at their worst, they're still giving you like way more than the other options would? Absolutely. Like, it's a no-brainer for me. I love what I've seen from Davon Keys. Even at his worst, I've seen signs that like that kid can play through a lot of pain, a lot of bullshit, a lot of adversity that goes his way and still like fight. He's a fight. He's not going to go out there and lay down. That's the thing. He's not going to go out there and lay his ass down. He's going to fight your ass. And that's what I've always appreciated from watching Davon Keys' game. So the young linebackers, you know, it's going to be a group that LSU we've had old reliables there for years now. And this next season, it's going to start the transition. You've only got one of these guys that's really a veteran of that room left in Whit Weeks coming back next season. So Davon Keys is, in my opinion, when you look at all the available data, and I think the snaps, the snap counts, the production on field would tell you this. He's obviously the most senior linebacker outside of Whit Weeks going into 2026. You want to see him at his best. You want to see him really, really operating at a high level. And you want to see him take the game over tomorrow. You want to see Tylen Singleton get his shot as well, though, and really get a lot of snaps. But so I expect maybe Zach Weeks and Singleton to share the snaps there. Okay. Let's see some comments. Let's see. Joe Benny says Sage Ryan is not a good football player. FOH, fuck out of here with that not utilized well BS. He was trash at LSU. He was trash at Ole Miss. He's just not good. I don't care what his recruiting ranking was. I wasn't even really debating that. I simply said he's yet another 5-star that you have to ask yourself the question, did you actually utilize him at the best position he could play? Maybe Sage Ryan playing offense is an absolute freak of a player because he did some supernatural things in the return game at LCA, man, that were just crazy returns. And you never saw him even get to attempt that at the next level. I really desperately want to see the practice footage of Sage Ryan returning punts or kicks because I don't think we really saw much of it at all. But they tried it at one point, and for some weird reason they never went back to it. Whatever. I'm just trying to simply say there is debate there. Was he an offensive player over being a defensive player? I think that's something worth asking. I think that's something worth debating. Also, if Lane Kiffin's Ole Miss were willing to pay him that much money, trust me, I know the number, to go there, and he actually started games for them, he graded pretty high this season. He actually played pretty damn well against LSU this last year. I mean, I'm just simply saying that this is a player I think that another player that LSU didn't utilize well and didn't really maximize what he could do. And he was a 5-star coming into LSU. That's just the truth. And so I am, Mason Smith. I could have said the same thing about Mason Smith. That's another 5-star that did you really maximize him to his utmost? Not sure. Don't think we did. Don't think we did at all. So that's really what I'm saying, but it's all right. Paul Tarver says, our injury carnage to key personnel during the season was huge given the offensive shortcomings. Yeah. Oh my God. When you lost Whit Weeks for the season, and hey, there's a bunch of people who say Whit Weeks isn't a good football player suddenly. There's a bunch of people, who are saying he's not a good linebacker all of a sudden because he was injured. Isn't that funny how that happens at LSU? You're not good if you're injured. Ridiculous. What Weeks we saw what happened without his speed, without his pace, without his ability to go sideline to sideline. We saw how bad LSU, were against these dual threat quarterbacks without him. And I understand Trinidad Chambliss put up over 300 passing yards and rushed for over 70, and Ole Miss beat us. They only beat us by 5 points though, with an injured Whit Weeks. And I understand he got worked and cooked a few games, but you also saw what he could do against a dual threat quarterback, the South Carolina guy. Oh my God, how am I forgetting his name? Lenore Sellers. You saw Whit Weeks and Peril Perkins eat Sellers alive. Our entire front did. Should have had a lot more sacks than we did. We had 5 in that game. But it's the injuries on defense were absolutely catastrophic. When you lost Whit Weeks, when you lost Bernard Gooden for a few games, you knew that was going to be tough. Just even those two. But then you lost Gabe Relaford. I think that was a big injury that in minimizing the rushing game, because he had this length and this aggression where people could not run. You could not bend that run around the tackle and get past his long arms. And I know it doesn't show up in the stat book as a sack or a TFL or whatever, but if you go and you watch the tape and you see this guy, this defensive end is completely blocked, Gabe Relaford, but then he's able to just unleash one of his arms and his hands and just go out like the Grinch and just pull you down. It's pretty nuts. Gabe Relaford I think was a big injury. Paul Tarver, my brother, again says the Texas Bowl can be Deshaun Spears' coming out party. Solid ball out, and our secondary for 26 can be elite. It's going to be tough to replace Mansour Delane and AJ Halsey when you lose them. But when you have DJ Pickett coming back, an absolute freshman All-American, freshman All-SEC, should be up for the freshman defensive player of the year, should be up for the freshman top freshman in the SEC. He should be up for all of those awards. Had multiple sacks, multiple pass breakups, multiple interceptions. I mean, what did he not do on a football field? Multiple TFLs. What did he not do on a football field? He was incredible this season. Incredible. He was a top five in the country in shutting people down, DJ Pickett. And so you got Pickett. You got Woodland. You're gonna have Tamarcus Cooley coming back next season as well. You're gonna lose AJ Halsey. You're gonna lose Mansour Delane, but you got some really strong pieces coming back next year. Cooley is gonna take that next level. I mean, take that next step to the next level. You got Deshaun Spears right there. PJ Woodland and DJ Pickett might be your day one starters. But you're going to go into the portal and likely boost that room again and likely find another top guy to just push that room even further. But you've got Woodland, who had 9 pass breakups and 2 picks last year. You got Pickett, who had 3 picks, basically should have had 4 and a pick 6 that barely called off. You've got some really strong secondary pieces to work with, just like you said, my man. Absolutely agree with you, brother. Absolutely strong point. And it's why you had to keep Corey Raymond. Foolish, stupid, insane. If you would have fired, if Kiffin would have fired Corey Raymond. Absolutely inane. If he had fired Corey Raymond, it would have made zero freaking sense, because maybe Pickett walks right out that door after that decision. You're definitely going to lose a few guys just from that decision alone. But, I'm worried about the depth again. For once, you had 2 really reliable, strong, awesome safeties back there in Cooley and Halsey, and those guys could really do it all. Halsey was more the strong safety vibe, but he had 3 picks himself, and then Cooley was more the free safety. I think Cooley must improve. He started getting picked on in the passing game as the season went on, which was really crazy because I think he started the season amazing in coverage, but then ended the season really getting picked on. But you've got to really go out and get a strong strong person to tandem to be in that tandem with him. And I think I've got the name for you. And I think it's in the last article we wrote. We wrote an article, including a guy who, the day we post the article, announces that he's going to stay with his current team, and so that completely was a waste of writing and time. But in that article, there's two other players who are about to be joined by an article with a few more names coming in the next 24 hours. That article will have 6 names to it. This one just had 3. But Bayard, coming out of Colorado, Tafik Bayard, this dude is someone I think who could come in and be not AJ Halsey, not do what he did, but I think he's comparable. 8 tackles for loss in the last 2 seasons. He was awesome at South Florida, USF. He was awesome at Colorado. He's getting better at coverage. He has an interception in each of the last season, but I think 4 pass breakups this last year. He's definitely improving in the coverage area as well. So a well-rounded, potentially elite safety option in Tafik Bayard out of Colorado, who just entered the portal in the last week. We'll see where LSU go with this, but that is a young man that I know is on LSU's radar. They tried to get him in the last portal unsuccessfully, and so we'll see where that goes. So LSU's stacked at the safety position, but tomorrow is a game where you're going to see Deshaun Spears in his ultimate element. How Deshaun Spears can function in that safety position, as a starter, because you haven't seen him be able to be more than in the rotation, here and there, in and out. You haven't seen him be able to start the games. So I almost wish for his development's sake and for our team's sake that maybe Halsey doesn't play in this game. But it'd be cool if Halsey did as well, as long as he doesn't get injured. It'd be very interesting to see how that turns out for him playing in his hometown against his former team, if that happens. But all signs are pointing to Halsey not playing in this game. This is going to be a game where I think there's going to be much more to this game that meets the eye. From, is Kyle Parker going to be a player LSU want to hang on to? How many of these receivers, this receiving core that is just about to be picked apart, is LSU going to want to retain? It's basically like Kiffin's going to say, hey, let's go shopping, and maybe we won't return the plastic bin again. Yeah, he's going to basically let's go shopping, see who we can and want to retain. Of course, Trey'Dez Green. Of course, a guy like Harlem Berry, Caden Durham, Braylon Moore, as we said before. You have to pay that guy. You got to keep him and build the offensive line around him. I don't think Kiffin would have a better option at center than Braylon Moore. Tyree Adams, I think he's been a strong player for you this season. And hopefully you can change Carius Kearns' mind, turn him back into a Tiger quickly, and he has a really standout performance, feels the love, and recommits to LSU. That would be fantastic as well. But this is going to be an interesting game tomorrow. I think it's like 5 or 6, something like that. But it's kind of, I think it's a 5, something like that. But it's later on in the game, in the night, on ESPN. LSU against Houston in the Texas Bowl. LSU in the Texas Bowl once again. I swear it's been like 4 out of 5 years. And it's going to be a very interesting game. Frank Wilson's last game at LSU, Cortez Hankton's last game at LSU, Brad Davis's last game at LSU. It's going to be a farewell of sorts for a lot of guys. Garrett Nussmeier's last game, and he's not even going to be able to play in it. It's just, it's really shocking. And I think for Michael Van Buren, this might be his last game at LSU too. Either he can show that I'm the future of the franchise here by going off and having like a 500-yard game and, you know, showing that you're one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country or some shit like that. Or he doesn't show quite enough, is kind of a middling option. He's not going to want to be a backup either. And so he's gonna move and head out and not be at LSU either. So you can see either option for Michael Van Buren's future as well. So it's a big game tomorrow, in my opinion, for the future of a lot of Tigers. They staying? Are they going? Are they worth this? Are they worth the money that Kiffin and his new regime, Billy Glasscock, all these guys, are they going to be paying that top dollar for you know, were they going to for a guy like Javian Toviano? Probably not. He probably needs another season to just even develop to get back to where he needs to be. And sadly, he's a senior next year, Javian Toviano. So I feel for some of these Tigers, they're in a really crazy situation going into this game. I feel for some of these coaches going into this game, less so for the coaches because they're paid quite a lot of money. But hey, these people still have families too, and they you know are paid a lot of money so that they can uproot their family every 6-7 months and move from this school to that place and to say goodbye to that friend. I mean, it's pretty cruel, pretty devastating to do that to your kids. And so there's a lot of moving parts here, and there's a lot of people who could be Tigers for the future, could be moving on, and I think this game is gonna tell us a lot about who's going to be a part of the future team going forward and who isn't. From Michael Van Buren at quarterback to pieces on the offensive line that really must be paid attention to maybe Caden Durham, is he going to stay a Tiger? Trades Green, is he going to be that guy that Kiffin's like, no way we're going to let him go. We were going to feed him nonstop. He's my super demon that I'm going to, you know, make a championship team around. There's so many pieces to this puzzle going on and so many futures to be decided by this game that I am really intrigued by every snap that's going to be going on. And since it's the final game for LSU in this season, it's been kind of been a tough, hard season for all of us to go through such a rough year where things did not go anyone's way that you were expecting. We're gonna really go full out and bring the best coverage we possibly can and make it a party and really go all out. So everybody, thank you so much and have a good rest of your night and take it easy. Go Tigers, baby.